to The Blotcha Show. My name is Chris. I'm your host, and you are listening to this week's episode of Storytime Friday.
Hey everybody, welcome back. Got a very special thing for you this week for Storytime Friday. Um, I debated this week, just having a bonus episode because of still being behind, but I actually figured I would do a special treat. I've got part of a story that I'd written. I guess it's chapter one technically for kind of a book I started back in January because I hadn't reacquired the book I started back in 2010. The one I did in 2010 actually has probably about 130, 140 or more pages on it. So it was quite a bit to it, and I've actually already read all the way through it, and even shared it with my friend Kirsten. And when it came to the part where I stopped, we both were like, "Ah, man," and I was like, I thought I went further than that. Oh man, that sucks because we're both like, we want more. So I was like, well, I guess I got to work on that. But I know I got to do the fight within part three, which probably be the final part of that story. Which then I'll do like I did before, and I will, the following week after having the fight within part three, then you guys will hear all three parts or three or four, depending on how if I end it with the third or if it keeps going. But so on that note, stand by and welcome to episode 74. So, once again, guys, welcome. So, this is the random writing project I had started. This story is called The Strength and Heart of a Fighter. Prelude. As kids, we all, or I should say most of us, had a much different idea about how our life was going to go. Sometimes as kids in middle school, we dreamed of being firefighters, or cops, or bakers, or in some cases, we might have dreamed of being a professional athlete. For some of us, we were able to achieve our wildest dreams. For most of us, though, although we may have attempted to get to the destination that we were after, a lot of us had a much different story unfold. Even with our stories being different than we planned, that doesn't mean that it was necessarily bad. Parts of it, perhaps, but the important part is where we went at every challenge with a fighting spirit, refusing to let it get the better of us. One quote I say often, and I swear by it: it's easier to quit, walk away, and give up. Another one is, we only fail if we quit or give up. Chapter 1. Once upon a time, there was a man. He had been through a lot of ups and downs, a lot of hardships, a lot of heartbreaks, a lot of doubts. You name it, he's been through it. But that's not where the story begins. Let's take you back, way back, to a time when this man was just a young boy. A time when one might say there was nothing but innocence in him. A time when he, like most young children, dreamed huge, spectacular, amazing dreams. We're going to go way back to the beginning. Are you ready? Alright, let's go. His name was Chris. He was quite young yet, still in elementary school. He had a best friend named Jamie, who lived down the street from him. They didn't go to the same school, but would meet up and hang out after school. Chris's school was so close that he was able to ride his bike to school and back. He always got a really good workout on the short trip. Chris's neighborhood was technically this big hill. There were houses going up one side, then probably like 10 houses up top, and then houses coming down the other side of the hill. It was a street called Coffee Avenue in Omaha, Nebraska. His friend Jamie and her parents were devoted churchgoers. Chris and his family were not. His parents were always really busy because of their careers, so there was never extra time. His mom was a nurse, and his dad was a retired military service member and ran a country club full time. Chris really hadn't thought too much about religion. He never felt the need to. He figured it probably wasn't a big deal. One night, though, after school, when Chris and Jamie and their other friends were hanging out playing games at night, things took an interesting turn. They were playing a few games that are played late at night when there's not much more than the light of the moon lighting up at all the areas around you. These games were called Kick the Can and Ghost in the Graveyard. Kick the Can is pretty simple. Basically, you take a soda can that's empty and put it on the ground in a random area. One person who is, quote, it, closes their eyes, counts to 100, while everyone else hides. Then he or she tries to find them. If they see someone, they have to tag them. That person has to get away from them and literally kick the can before being tagged. The person who is it, while trying to find and tag the other players, also has to prevent the can from being kicked, or they lose. Ghost in the Graveyard is a little bit different. Same basic start. One person closes their eyes and counts, and the rest hide. However, in this game, they do not try to run past him or her. The person who is it, if he or she sees someone, they have to yell, "Ghost in the Graveyard, I see," and then holler out the person's name. If it's the person they name, the person that got called out has to try to run to wherever they've established base. The person who is it has to then keep searching to find the next person. On this particular night, as Chris and Jamie and all their friends were in the middle of the game, he felt like something was drawing him away. There was no explaining it. There's no explanation for it. He just sort of wandered off, unsure what he was doing, where he was going, or why he was doing what he was doing. He just ventured off, still hearing the counting in the distance, and hearing the friend who was currently at holler, "Ghost in the Graveyard," off in the distance. Chris found himself making his way down to Jamie's house. Her family had an RV, or as Chris called it, a motorhome, parked in their driveway. He walked around the back of their motorhome, under this big tree they had in their front yard, and had his hands on the top of their metal gate leading to their backyard. He thought to himself, "What am I doing?" He had no idea why he was there, why he was about to go into their backyard. He couldn't explain it, but for some reason he felt like he had to, so he went with it. He started to open the clasp that secured the gate close when suddenly a loud thud in the grass directly behind him, as if something had jumped out of the tree. His heart caught in his chest. His eyes got as wide as saucers. He found himself struggling to breathe. What was that? He thought to himself. The fear he was feeling was crippling. He couldn't breathe. He couldn't move. He didn't know what to do. He hadn't opened the gate yet, so running into the backyard didn't seem like a very possible option. He could hear his heart pounding in his chest. He swallowed and forced his legs to move. Ever so slowly, almost as if the world was moving in slow motion, Chris turned around to see what looked like a tall, huge shadow standing in front of him, looking back at him with red, glowing eyes. Panicking and terrified, and no clue what to do, he did the only thing he felt he could do. He ran straight through it. After running around the back of the motorhome and making it maybe 50 feet, he stopped and looked back. He didn't see any sign of the shadow or whatever it was. He had tears streaming down his face by this point. He was so scared. He was having trouble breathing. What was that thing? What did it want? Was it real? What do I do? He had so many questions running through his head, and he didn't have any answers for any of them. It didn't seem like it had been that long, but he noticed that his friends were no longer around. Did they go home already? We were just playing a little bit ago. Freaking out at this point, he wiped his face and sprinted towards home. Getting in the door of his own home, he locked the door behind him. His parents were down the hall watching TV, and his siblings were already in bed. Chris went down by his parents and said goodnight to them before heading up to his room. Having changed into his PJs and safely under his own covers, he lay there unable to sleep. Questions circling through his mind. Why did I go down there? What was I doing? Why was I going into Jamie's backyard? It seemed like I had just left my friends in the game, but when I came back, everyone was gone. So how long was I really gone? It seemed like he had been laying there for hours thinking about it all, when suddenly his alarm clock woke him up. As he and his parents sat at the breakfast table, his parents were talking amongst themselves, and Chris was just silently eating. He always enjoyed having breakfast with his parents. His dad was usually the one that cooked a lot of the time, and most mornings the most common breakfast food his dad made him before school usually was fried eggs and some toast with some orange juice. If he didn't have too much time, then it was usually a fried egg sandwich. Sometimes Chris would watch his dad as he cooked. He'd watch as his dad would crack 2 eggs into the skillet. It would start to sizzle right away, and then his dad would use a spatula and break the yolk. He'd try it on that side for a minute or two and then flip it, seasoning it on both sides with a seasoning that had come to be a family staple. It was a seasoning called salt and spice. Chris loved his dad's fried egg sandwiches. Some people liked them with cheese or other toppings on the sandwich. Chris was perfectly content with the fried egg being the fried egg between 2 pieces of toast. His parents always said that was a good breakfast, or that a good breakfast was the most important way to start your day. His dad always said that after having a good breakfast, that it'd be a lot easier to do really well in school. Hard to concentrate on an empty stomach, his dad would always say. Of course, every time his dad would lay the plate in front of him and then stop and give him a look until Chris would realize it and say, "Oh, yeah, thanks, Dad." His dad would then just grin and nod and say, "That's my boy." After breakfast, Chris went to get his backpack. Stopping back in the kitchen briefly to give his parents a hug goodbye, he headed out the door. As the front door closed behind him, he heard both his mom and dad say, "Have a great day, love you." He grabbed his helmet, hopped on his bike, and took off towards school. To get to his school, he had to go past Jamie's house. He stayed on the other side of the street, across from Jamie's house, worried about what he might see as he passed by. As he passed, his eyes scanned around Jamie's front yard, around the motorhome, and then on the other side where the gate was, as well as the tree that something jumped out of. Did it? He wondered to himself as he rode past Jamie's house. Did that really happen? It all seemed like a bad dream. Like maybe he had been in bed the whole time and had dreamed the whole thing up. Maybe he hadn't really gone out and played with Jamie and their friends, but was instead inside dreaming the whole time. It all seemed real. When he thought about the night before, he could still hear his friends yelling, "Ghosts in the graveyard," as loud as they could. Would a dream feel that real? Now he now he found himself doubting what he had experienced the night before. Maybe he'd have to talk to Jamie about it sometime, whenever they played next. Maybe she'd seen whatever it was he saw. He could still feel the cold of the metal gate on his hands. He could still feel the terror as he heard that thud behind him, and even more so as he stared into its red glowing eyes. Again, he found himself thinking about how after he had run a little ways, everyone was already gone. That was definitely weird, he thought to himself. Where had they all gone? He snapped back to attention just in time to realize he was about to ride straight into a telephone pole, and he turned just in time to go around it. Get a grip, man, he said to himself. I gotta stop. I'm only scaring myself further. Suddenly, he crested the hill, or the other side, and started to go down the hill. He loved this part of the ride. As he picked up speed, sometimes he would sit back and let go of the handlebars, putting his hands out on the bike. "I'm flying! Woohoo!" he'd say to himself. Then, as soon as he would get to the bottom of the hill, he'd go a few hundred feet and take a steep turn to the right, and then it was up another steep hill to get to his school. Locking his bike up at the bike rack out front, he headed into school. As the end of the day bell rang at school, Chris ran outside, unlocked his bike, and took off towards home. Again, the first part of the bike ride home is down the first hill. As he went down the hill, he had his arms out to the side, yelling, "I'm flying! Woohoo!" Then, just like on the way to school, after going down the first hill, it was a steep uphill climb up to where his house was. Of course, just like that morning, he pedaled past Jamie's house. This time, though, he deliberately didn't look around. He just looked straight ahead and kept pedaling. He didn't want to relive any of it again right now. He was still creeped out and had so many questions and doubts. It was driving him crazy and scaring him even more. So for now, he just wanted to get home where he figured he would be safe. Or at least, that's what he hoped. Welcome back, guys. And, it's a little bit of a short one because it wasn't as much to it, but I wanted to share that with you guys, see what you guys thought, If you guys enjoyed it, you want me to try to see where that goes and continue with that, definitely email me. Let me know. blogitshowpodcast@gmail.com, or go to blogitshow.com, click the contact button, and let me know. Or if you have, again, like I always say, let me know if you have story ideas, or ideas for like topics that you want me to cover for Real Talk Tuesday, whatever. But yeah, it's funny actually, when I brought it up on my computer, the text is really small, so the actual story itself looked huge. But then when I copied and pasted that over to Word to be able to save it so that it would back it up onto my Google Drive and stuff, then all of a sudden it was like 5 pages, like 2,000 words or whatever. I'm like, not like a short story, but not a long one like some of my last ones. So, but that one I could totally see continuing, because there's so much more I could go with that. There's a lot more to that story, and I just hadn't written it yet. But I knew where I was going with that when I wrote it. But then, like I mentioned in the previous episode, I had not been on my computer for about 6 months. Wasn't really diligently focusing on writing at that time. So, I would write a little bit, I'd do a couple journal entries, I'd do that story. And then it was probably like a month or a couple months where I would go without doing anything else. And, as you guys have seen, within the past 2 months, I've tried to be a lot more diligent, a lot more focused on the writing, and actually get stories out for you guys every week. So, and me and my kiddo take off tomorrow by noon to head west to go to, basically she has a half day at school, and then she's off for spring break, and we're gonna that's the funny thing, we actually had planned, or my plans initially, which have changed a couple times. You know how it is, you make plans and of course plans change a little bit. And so the initial plan, because I looked into airline tickets for me and my kiddo to fly out there or whatever, and then drive the car that we're bringing back from my parents. It's like a 95 Buick Park Avenue that my grandparents owned, so my parents have had it for a while. And they're, I'd offered to buy it from them. They said, actually, we'll just give it to you. You can figure out how to get it back to Nashville. I'm like, all right, I'll see what I can do. So the plan was I was looking into airline tickets initially, and then I was like, yeah, but we need to check a bag, and I need to have a carry-on, and the cheap airline tickets are if you don't want to bring anything with you. So if I wanted to check bags and stuff for both of us, that was added money, so it's gonna be like $500 for both of us. And I was like, yeah, that's a little expensive, because then I looked up rental cars, and it was to rent a car from here to Oklahoma City to then catch an Uber from there to my parents, because there's no further places to drop rental cars off apparently past that. So I was like, all right. It was like 230. So I was like, all right, that sounds a lot better. And then we'll just pay for gas on the way back. So that was the plan, to leave, to get the rental car today and to leave tomorrow with the rental car heading out that direction, and then drive the other car back. Then last night when I was literally getting ready to head out with my load to Knoxville, my dad sends me a long text basically like, hey, what's going on? Like, what's your plan? Blah, blah, blah. You know, like, are you coming to get the car? And are you going to stay for a little bit? Are you just going to get the car? Whatever. And I was like, thinking like, well, I messaged back like, well, Dad, like, I've been updating Mom. I guess she hasn't been telling you. So, like, I was like, so here's the plan, blah, blah, blah. You know, this is what I'm planning to do. Pick up a rental car tomorrow, leave Friday, whatever, and drive the car back this way. But I said, but now after part of his message was, yeah, we haven't had any problems with it, but there's no guarantee that it'll make it to Nashville. Like, you know, it's been pretty good. We've never broke down on this, whatever, but it's never done that long of a trip. So I was like, well, now I'm a little worried. So I ended up getting on the phone with U-Haul, and I started asking them, because I have a truck, you know, that it has ball hitch and stuff, because we had the U-Haul trailer that we moved Allie and her son back with us, you know, from Kansas. So I already have the equipment on the truck. It's just a matter of, you know. So I ended up talking to them and tell them, like, this is what I'm trying to do. Try to get a car back here from Oklahoma. You know, I was like, I don't know if the car will I know it's fine for local, but that's a long trip for a car that we don't know how well it'll handle it. It would probably be fine, but I told my parents, I said, I'm a little worried because I can't afford to be broken down halfway between you guys and us. I was like, because I wouldn't be able to afford to have that car towed somewhere and pay for a repair just yet. You know, at least if we get it back here, it's fine locally. We can do little stuff like tune up and stuff, you know. So I was asking the representative with U-Haul, like, because I was expecting it to be like $1,000. It's kind of why I hadn't gone that route. But she was like, oh no, if you pick up a car trailer out there in Oklahoma and you drop it off in Nashville, it'll be like $425. No, that's not too bad. I was like, because having the car shipped with a professional like car hauler, they were quoted me like $400, which that was a route I looked to do too. But I was like, I really wanted to get out there and see my parents and have at least one of the kids with me. I'd love to take both of them and the grandkid, at least, to have everybody, all the kids and grandkids see my parents or whatever. But sadly, you know, not everybody can take off work and stuff. So, but so then when talking to her, she was like, well, yeah, but if you pick the trailer up here, or you know, locally, and you drop it off locally, it's like $55 a day. I'm like, you mean if I pick the trailer up and drive all the way out there with the trailer and just get the car on it and then drive back? And she's like, yeah. I'm like, huh. So I was like, all right, so is this like the dolly trailer, like with just the two wheels, or is it like the full on where the full car is up on the trailer chute? It's the full trailer where you have the full car up there. I'm like, oh, okay. So what are we looking at for, like, if I pick up Friday and drop off Monday night? But she goes, well, like we'd have to put it for like Tuesday morning for you to drop it off. So that'd be 4 days. It'd be like $230. I said, really? I was like, well, shit, that's like $200 less than if I pick it up in Oklahoma, and that, since I'm planning to grab a hotel the first night, like Friday night, and then finish the rest of the way Saturday morning. I was like, I guess that actually will help, you know. I said, I'm fine with driving out there with the trailer, it's fine, you know. So went ahead and scheduled that stuff. So the plan right now is my kiddo is going to school tomorrow, and she'll get off by like 10:30. I'm working tonight. After getting this episode all recorded, edited, and you know, basically scheduled to post on Friday when it's supposed to, then I'll be grabbing a shower and getting ready to work, because I gotta be at the hub by like 8:15 and go into Knoxville tonight, and hopefully I can get back at a decent time so I can at least catch some sleep before the plan is to get up like 10:30, 11, pack my stuff up, pack a bag up, got my comforter, my CPAP and all that stuff, and my computer and its little go bag, and get ready to go. And I told the kiddo, I was like, basically the plan is I don't want to park out here with a trailer, so I figured we'd pack the truck up, and then when we would leave, and before we head out of town, we'd go to the U-Haul place, get that all squared away, get the trailer attached, and then hit the road, take off. Because that sounds easier than having to deal with having a trailer attached when you're sitting out front. Sorry, a little bit of a brain fart there. So that's the plan currently. Doing what we gotta do, but. And then we'll get out there and hang out with my parents for Saturday and Sunday, and then we'll leave Monday to come back, and I'm still off on Tuesday because I deliberately, anytime I'm doing a trip like that, I usually will come back. I'll have one extra day requested off, and I'll come back the day before, so that way I have like a day to relax and stuff before going back to work. Since I'm a driver, I don't like doing the really long travel and then go right back to work, because then while I'm working my work week, I'm tired as hell. So, but anyway, y'all, I hope y'all enjoyed the Storytime Friday this week. Definitely let me know if you have any feedback on that, how you like the story. Just throw a few things out there. This podcast does have a official website, watchashow.com. There's a couple links down on the bottom where you have a couple different platforms, wherever you're listening to this right now, but the main 3 platforms that I have listed are Spotify, iHeartRadio, and Apple Podcasts. There's also in the drop-down menu, if you click the promotions link, there's a couple of promotions that of ways that people can actually create an account and make like $25 or $50 or whatever. Pretty easy stuff. It's with a bank called Sophie Bank. It's actually who I use. It's pretty awesome. They have some of those links actually are not just for creating a checking and savings, but for creating an investment account with them too. So that's pretty awesome. Makes it pretty easy to set up stocks or invest in mutual funds and whatnot. But also for anybody that wants to support the show, firstly, I'll say I definitely appreciate it, and thank you in advance. But to do that, it's very simple. You just go to watchashow.com/support, and it'll pop up. It'll automatically redirect to the Patreon site, where you have the option to do a one-time donation, or you could do a monthly donation for as little as $1 per month. And of course, eventually I will have extras that people obviously like, little perks for people who support the show. I'm working on that. It's a little work in progress. I got to figure out what I want to do. Like, if I want to do bonus episodes that are only available to supporters, I got to figure out like what kind of episodes I want to do that'll make, that'll seem worth it for people supporting, or merch, for instance, like coffee mugs, shirts, But for anybody who wants to find me anywhere, I'm on TikTok as TN Trucker Chris. I'm on Instagram as TN Trucker Chris. Pretty sure I'm on Twitter X as TN Trucker Chris, and you can find me on Facebook as TN Trucker Chris. So feel free to look me up, But aside from that, hope you guys enjoyed the story. At some point, I probably will add to that story. It's just a matter of trying to, I definitely want to work on the current one, the Fight Within. That's got like 2 parts, so I got to get the 3rd part and kind of close that story out, and then I can decide, like, do I want to keep going with the one I just read to you guys, or do I want to do a new story for the next week? It's always like every week. That's kind of what I do. I sit there staring at my computer for like half an hour going, all right, what do I want to do? But I definitely didn't want to necessarily do a bonus episode with you guys again. I wanted to at least do some kind of story for you. So I apologize, it was kind of short. It wasn't, because when I finally had a chance to sit down and try to look at it, it was like 6 o'clock, and usually like I need to give myself at least a few hours to get a decent amount of writing in. And so an hour, I'm like, yeah, I'm not gonna be able to really accomplish much. But anyway, y'all, you know my sayings: keep on pushing forward, keep believing, believe you can, believe you will, and you're already halfway there. And then you just have to go out there and do it. You know, and so on that note, guys, I really appreciate y'all being here. Never give up, you know, no matter how things might seem at the moment. Just keep trying, keep pushing forward, keep doing what you gotta do, you know. That's all we can do. And if anybody needs any emotional support, or you want somebody to talk to, feel free to drop me a message, you know, blogishowpodcast@gmail.com, and I will go back and forth with you, you know, even if it's just to tell you, hey, everything's gonna be okay, you know. We all got this. I know that talking with my friend Sabrina, you know, shout out to Sabrina. I don't know if she's actually gonna listen to this, but hey, we'll see, you know. But I was joking with her earlier because I'm not a team builder when it comes to like businesses online. Like I do passive stuff, like the Sophie thing, where yeah, technically you're signing people up, but they get a checking and savings account or investment account, and they get money, you get money. You know, it's kind of a win-win type thing. But as far as like network marketing or other types of businesses like that, where you sign people up and you know they pay a membership fee and they buy products or whatever, I don't really do those too often. But I am in one with her that, you know, I'm doing the regular post daily, whatever. But I joked with her, like, I'm not a team builder though. I haven't been for years, you know, since I was a part of a bunch of big teams that they all went under, and I just haven't been able to do it since. But I said, but I'm gonna try. I'm gonna, you know, take it day by day, and I'm gonna, you know, try to put some interesting stories up there on my stories on Facebook, and you know, and I said, we'll see what happens. Of course, you know. Like, oh, but don't think like that. Think positive, whatever. I'm not thinking negative. I'm thinking realistic. Like, this is just how my life is now. You know, because after the things I've been a part of in the past, I just literally struggle trying to build a team. So it's easier for me to focus on the things that I can control. Like, I can come on here and do these episodes and work on my podcast every week to give you guys some good content, some good stories, some good real talk stuff. And with the goal in mind to eventually be able to do this full time, but I know that obviously it's going to take time. You know, Rome wasn't built in a day. Nothing happens overnight. So I know that eventually things will be where I want them to be, and all I have to do is keep doing what I'm preaching to you guys. Keep moving forward. Keep taking it day by day, week by week, and doing what I got to do. So on that note, guys, I appreciate you being here. And I will talk to you on episode 75 on next Tuesday, which will be the next episode of Real Talk Tuesday. And then because I will have some downtime over the weekend when we're at my parents' house, so I'm anticipating and I'm hoping that I could set aside time to actually be able to knock out the next story for next week. You know, so that because once I can get the next part done with the Fight Within, then that would be for that Friday, and then the following Friday I would do all of them together, like I did the other story I did multiple parts. So that would already be 2 weeks planned, and so I would already be ahead, which would make it easier for me to, you know, not fall behind again, unless I get sick again for a couple weeks. But that's why there's bonus episodes though. If something like that happens, then I'll catch back up again. But anyway, y'all, I hope everybody has had a wonderful week. I hope everybody has a wonderful Friday this week and a wonderful weekend. I look forward to joining you guys again on Real Talk Tuesday in episode 75. Be blessed, and we'll have a good one.